Hi, I'm Barbara. Welcome to this week's edition of Craft Corner Kits to Go. I decided to try to make some bookmarks with leaf painting this week, and they turned out kind of neat. This is a finished one. I did not paint the back, but I think on the ones that you're doing, I'm going to have you do that so that you have pretty colors on both sides of your bookmark. So we're ready to go here. What you want to do first is in your kit, you're going to receive some cardstock. And I picked light brown because I think it shows up the fall colors better. You need your own paint in, say, yellow, orange, red. You're going to need some throwaway paper plates so that you can paint without getting paint all over everything. You're going to need a length of yarn, and I picked this moss green color because I thought it would go well with our fall thing. You're going to need your hole punch. I picked one with a smaller hole so that I didn't have quite so much to push through. You're going to need some clear contact paper. And then you need to go out in the yard or somewhere near your yard and pick some small leaves. I picked these off a bush. And I left these all attached because I'm going to use this for my pattern. I also picked some little leaves that were on a tree. So just find some that are kind of small because they need to be able to fit on this cardstock piece we have. So to start with, you want to put your paint on your paper plate just a little bit. So I just did a glob, and I'm going to put the yellow right next to the red, just a little bit, and then some orange. Now I know you can mix yellow and red and make orange if you want, but the kind that I bought is a little brighter than what it would be if I mixed it. So that's my thinking in that. So I have two paper plates. I've got one that I'm putting the paint on, and the other one is going to put my finished product on to let it dry. So lay your cardstock piece on your paper plate here and take your leaf and drag it through the paint. So you get a little bit of all kinds of paint on the outside of the leaves. See how I've done? Now I'm going to take my leaves and lay them on my cardstock and kind of push down with my fingers. You might make a little bit of a mess doing this, so have a wet washcloth handy to wipe your fingers off when you're done. Now see, my first attempt is right there. And just keep going. You might even want to take a marker and write your name on this after it's dried. So there's my one side, and I would let that dry and then do the other side of it. You can take different, let's put that there. You can take different size leaves and do the same thing. I'm going to try this one so I got a little bit of paint over the whole thing, and I'm just touching it down to my bookmark like that. And then I'll go back and I'll get some yellow and orange and I'll touch it down again. You see how it's working? So if you don't wiggle it around, you end up with the same shape that you're doing on the whole piece. So as I said, you would paint this side, and then after it dries, you will flip over and paint the other side. But till it dries, you set it aside and let it dry. Okay? Now, here's where I need the washcloth to get the paint off my fingers. And we're ready for the next step after your paint has dried, which I've got one that I did, and I want to go ahead with it, and I'm going to put it in the clear contact paper. So what you have to do is lay it on your contact paper and fold that over so that you just have, now this one I've cut fairly close, so I don't have a lot of room on either side, so I'm ready to actually put this in the contact paper. But if your contact paper is too big, then kind of cut around it so it has a smaller margin. A margin is like the edge. So what I want to do is make my contact paper divide, which this is sometimes pretty hard to do. You just have to keep flicking it with your finger until you get it right. Then get your piece to peel like this. Lay it down sticky side up. So I have it lying on the table, and I'm going to take my bookmark and I'm going to lay it on the sticky side and press down. Now I've left an edge. You can see I've got an edge right here. So what I'm going to do is fold this over, and I want to make sure that my stickiness goes to the edge of the stickiness so that the bookmark is completely covered. Then you're going to need to take your fingers and smooth that out. And sometimes if your fingers don't do it, then maybe take a piece of cardboard, a hard piece of cardboard, and use the edge of it. But my fingers are working just fine on this one. So I have smoothed out all the wrinkles. So now I'm going to take my scissors and cut around the edges. Now don't cut so close that you're cutting into your bookmark, because you want these edges to be on here so that they completely encase your bookmark. If you cut and didn't leave any edges, then your contact paper would not be sealed. But right now it's sealed on both sides so that no air gets in or moisture or anything. And it's ready to actually use as a bookmark. I am going to add just a little bit. I'm going to put 2 hole punches at the top and then go around maybe 3/4 of an inch along the edge and keep punching holes. And we're going to go back and wind some yarn through that. So I've got holes all around the edge. And I want to take my yarn and weave it in and out through these holes. Now, because your yarn is kind of wishy-washy on the end, if you take a piece of Scotch tape, just a small piece, and you wrap it around your yarn, that will make, just keep rolling it and rolling it, that will make your yarn stiffer so that you can pull it through these holes without having so much trouble. So you're just going in and out around your entire bookmark like you're sewing. And always do it from the same way. If you come from the back, then come from the back on every hole. If you come from the front, then come from the front on every hole. There's no set rule that says you have to come from a certain way. I'm coming from the back because it's easier for me to see as my yarn is coming through. What you're going to end up with is an edging along here. So go ahead and go all the way around and then tie it at the top. And if you have any yarn left, then just take it and wind it around till you run out of yarn and tie this in the top so that you have a tassel. And then you will have a bookmark that you can use all through the fall, and you made it yourself. And like I said, if you put your initials or if you sign it, it's your special piece of art. So I hope you have fun doing this, and I'll see you next week on Craft Corner Kits to Go.